Claire's phone vibrated as she and Noah reached the back of the security queue. She expected another stadium notice. The app had already warned them about bag sizes, road closures, and the fact that screenshots of tickets would not work at the turnstiles. Instead, the screen showed a transfer request. One ticket. Block 214, row 18, seat 63. Noah's seat. Requested recipient, Graham Voss. Claire stopped walking. Noah bumped lightly into her arm. His green and white scarf had worked loose on one side, and he was still holding the match program his grandfather had bought him outside the station. "What is it?" Claire tilted the phone toward herself, but he had already seen the number. "That's mine." She read the notification again. Martin Bennett, the original purchaser, had requested the transfer. Because the ticket was assigned to a junior profile linked to Claire's account, the change required guardian approval. 2 buttons sat at the bottom of the screen. Approve, decline. "Am I still going in?" Noah asked. Claire looked past him. Her father was standing about 20 feet behind them, just beyond a family arguing with a steward about the size of a backpack. Martin had one hand raised, trying to catch her attention. Beside him stood a tall man in a charcoal coat, carrying a black leather bag that looked too formal for a football match. Claire knew the man from photographs on Martin's company website. Graham Voss, managing director. The person Martin had mentioned at least twice a week since the regional operations manager position opened. Martin moved toward them, smiling as though the morning was proceeding exactly as planned. "Claire," he said quietly, "come over here a second." She did not move. "What is this?" Martin glanced at Noah, then at the phone. "Not here. You sent it here." The queue shuffled forward. Claire stepped with it automatically, keeping one hand on Noah's shoulder. Martin lowered his voice further. Graham became available. "Last minute. This could be very useful for me." Noah looked from Martin to the phone. Claire said, "You're transferring Noah's ticket. Just approve it before we get to security." "And where is Noah supposed to go?" "There's a fan area outside. Big screen, food stalls, all of it. You can stay with him." For a moment, Claire thought she had misunderstood. There had to be another ticket, a hospitality space, a seat in a different section, some badly explained arrangement that would become less ridiculous once Martin finished speaking. She opened the ticket list. 3 seats had been purchased together. Seat 62 belonged to Martin. Seat 63 belonged to Noah. Seat 64 belonged to Claire. There was no 4th ticket. "You want both of us to stay outside," she said. Martin gave a small, impatient shake of his head. "I'm asking you to help me out. You promised him this match. He's 12, he'll see dozens more." Noah's hand tightened around the program. Martin noticed and changed his tone. "You'll still get the whole atmosphere, mate. The fan zone is supposed to be brilliant." Noah looked down at the concrete. Claire knew that movement. He had done it at school meetings when a teacher corrected him in front of other children. He would lower his eyes and become very still, as though taking up less space might shorten the moment. She turned back to Martin. "Why didn't you tell me before we came?" "Because I only confirmed it this morning." "Before we left the house?" Martin's eyes flicked toward Graham. "Can we not do this in front of him?" Graham remained several feet away, studying something on his phone. Whether he could hear them or not, Claire could not tell. Martin leaned closer. "I need you not to embarrass me." There it was. Not an apology, not even an explanation that included Noah. A warning. Claire had heard versions of it throughout her childhood. "Do not make a fuss in front of the neighbors. Do not bring that up while your aunt is visiting. Do not ruin the evening because plans had changed." Martin never described himself as someone who broke promises. Plans became impractical. Circumstances moved on. Someone had to be sensible. Claire had usually been the sensible one. At 13, she had waited in a library lobby for nearly 2 hours because Martin had forgotten he was collecting her. When he finally arrived, he told her not to tell her mother how long she had been there because it would cause an argument. At 17, he had promised to attend her school awards evening and then accepted an extra shift. Claire had told everyone he was ill. Even now, she could remember the relief on his face when she supplied the excuse for him. She had spent years believing that peace was something she could manufacture by changing the description of what had happened. When Noah was born, Martin seemed different with him. He arrived early for birthday parties. He remembered which players Noah liked. He stood in the rain at school matches and complained about referees who were 15 years old. Claire had allowed herself to believe that grandchildren received the improved version of a person. The final had felt like proof. Martin had made the promise months earlier, when reaching the cup final still seemed unlikely. If they get there, he had told Noah, you and I are going, no excuses. Noah remembered those words exactly. When the team won the semi-final, he called Martin before he called any of his friends. The tickets had cost more than Claire was comfortable with, but Martin insisted on paying. My treat, he said. Then, over the next few weeks, he mentioned the price often enough that the treat began to feel like a loan nobody knew how to repay. He joked that Noah owed him a win. He reminded Claire that he had spent nearly an hour in the online queue. He told 2 separate relatives that he had sorted the whole day. Claire had noticed it. She simply had not treated it as a warning. That was her mistake. The queue moved again. A steward called for people to have their tickets open before reaching the scanners. Claire's phone still displayed the transfer request. Approve. Decline. Martin checked over his shoulder. Graham thinks the spare seat has only just become available. Claire looked at him. The spare seat? Keep your voice down. There isn't a spare seat. You know what I mean? No, I don't. Martin exhaled through his nose. I told him a family guest couldn't make it. Noah raised his head. Claire saw the question reach him before he asked it. Which guest? Martin did not answer. Noah looked at Claire. Mum? She could have pulled him away. She could have told him it was a mix-up and promised to explain later. That would have been her usual method. Move the child out of range. Protect the adult from the immediate consequence. Then rebuild the story in private. But Noah had seen the seat number. He had heard the words family guest. Any kinder explanation would require him to doubt what was directly in front of him. Claire said, He means you. Noah looked at Martin. You told him I wasn't coming? It wasn't like that. That is what you told him, Claire said. Martin's expression hardened. I said a family guest might not be able to attend. That is all. You invited him before you asked us. I'm asking now. No, you're asking me to approve it now. You already asked him. Martin looked toward Graham again. The managing director had put his phone away. He was watching the queue, not them, though Claire could no longer believe he had heard nothing. This promotion would make a serious difference, Martin said. Not just to me. To who else? To the family. Claire almost laughed, but nothing about Noah's face allowed it. Martin continued. Better salary, better hours, more flexibility. I could help you more. You're taking his ticket so you might be able to help us later. I paid for the tickets. The sentence landed with more force than his raised voice could have managed. Noah looked down at the program again. Claire stared at her father. So that's what the promise was? Don't twist it. You paid so you can take it back. I can decide how a ticket I bought is used. The security line split into 2 lanes. A steward directed Claire and Noah to the left. Martin followed. Claire stopped beside a metal barrier and turned to him. Why his seat? Martin frowned. What? If spending time with Graham matters this much, give him mine. You won't go in without Noah. It was so immediate that Claire knew he had already considered it. That was the plan. Not simply remove Noah. Remove Claire too. Martin would sit beside Graham without a daughter asking questions, or a grandson reminding anyone where the ticket had come from. Noah spoke before Claire could answer. It's fine. Both adults looked at him. He shrugged, but his shoulders were too high and his voice was too careful. We can go home. Claire felt something inside her settle. Not calm, not certainty. Something harder. Noah was offering to lose the day, so the adults would stop discussing whether he was worth the inconvenience. Martin reached for the phone. There, he understands. Claire pulled it out of reach. No, he doesn't. I said it's fine, Noah repeated. She turned toward him. Do you want to go home? He did not answer. Forget what Grandad wants. Do you want to go home? Noah stared past her at the stadium. Through the open structure above the turnstiles, part of the upper stand was visible. Thousands of supporters were already inside. No, he said. Martin rubbed a hand across his mouth. For goodness sake, Claire, this is one match. To him? To anybody. It is one football match. A voice came from behind Martin. Is there a problem with the transfer? Graham had joined them. Up close, he looked less imposing than he did in company photographs. Mostly he looked uncomfortable. His eyes moved from Martin to Claire, then to Noah's scarf. Martin answered first. Just a technical issue. Claire needs to authorize it, because the ticket is on the boy's profile. Graham looked at Noah. This is his seat? Martin did not respond. Claire did. Yes. Graham's expression changed slightly. Martin said the ticket was no longer required. It is required, Claire said. Noah is standing here to use it. The noise from the crowd carried over the entrance plaza. A chant started somewhere near the main steps, broke apart, then began again. Graham looked at Martin. That is not what I understood. Martin gave a short laugh. It's become more complicated than it needed to be. No, Claire said. It was always this complicated. You just expected me to make it quiet. Martin's jaw tightened. The steward at the front of their lane called for the next group. Claire's phone dimmed in her hand. She touched the screen and the request appeared again. Approve. Decline. Martin stepped closer. Think carefully before you make a scene over this. Claire looked at Noah. He was no longer looking at the stadium. He was looking at her. Claire looked at the two buttons again, but before she touched either one, Graham spoke. I won't be using the seat. Martin turned toward him. There's no need to decide anything yet. We're sorting it. There is nothing for me to sort. Graham's voice remained level, which made Martin's sudden urgency more obvious. You came all this way, Martin said. Give us 30 seconds. I came because you said a ticket was available. It is available. Noah flinched. Claire saw it and said, No, it isn't. Martin's eyes fixed on her. Would you stop doing that? Doing what? Correcting every word as though we're in court. Claire worked in a school office, not a courtroom, but she recognized the complaint. Adults often objected to precision only after vagueness stopped helping them. Graham adjusted the strap of his leather bag. Martin, you told me your nephew had cancelled. Claire looked at her father. Until then, she had assumed he had described Noah as a family guest because it sounded impersonal. Nephew was different. Nephew created distance. It made the child easier to replace. He's my grandson, Martin said. Graham looked at Noah, then back at Martin. Yes, I can see that now. Martin gave Claire a look that blamed her for the fact becoming visible. Graham continued. I wouldn't have accepted if I had known. You've misunderstood the situation. I understood that someone was no longer attending. He doesn't have to. Noah's fingers crushed the lower corner of his program. Claire took it gently from him before the paper tore. Don't speak about him as if he's somewhere else, she said. A steward called again for people to move forward. The queue divided around them, supporters passing on both sides with tickets open on their phones. One man glanced over, then lost interest when his daughter pulled him toward the scanner. Graham stepped away from the barrier. I'll find somewhere else to watch it. Martin's voice sharpened. You don't need to do that. I'm not taking a child's ticket. It is not his ticket. I bought it. Graham's expression gave Claire no clear answer about what he thought of that. He simply said, Then you should decide what you promised when you bought it. Martin's face reddened. For a second, Claire thought he might argue with his managing director in front of the turnstiles. Instead, he forced a smile. Let's not make this dramatic. I'm leaving, Graham said. That seems less dramatic. He nodded once to Claire, then to Noah. I'm sorry, I wasn't told. Noah did not answer. Claire doubted he knew what answer was expected. Graham walked toward the main plaza, joining the stream of supporters moving away from the entrances. He did not look back. Martin watched him go. Claire had seen her father angry many times. His anger usually moved outward. He found a late train, an incompetent waiter, a careless colleague, or somebody else's poor planning. This time, he had nowhere obvious to place it except her. You had to say it like that, he said. I answered his question. You made me look dishonest. You told him your nephew cancelled. I simplified it. You changed who Noah was. I was trying to avoid dragging family business into work. Claire stared at him. You invited work into a family promise. Martin glanced toward Graham, but he had already disappeared into the crowd. He might still come back. Noah looked up. Martin noticed. I mean, after he's had a minute. Claire checked the transfer request. It was still active. You still want me to approve it. I want you to stop reacting and think about what this could mean. Graham just refused. People say things when they're uncomfortable. You made him uncomfortable. And now you want to make sure I get nothing from it. The accusation arrived so quickly that Claire almost accepted its shape. Martin had always been skilled at turning refusal into aggression. If she did not help him, she was not neutral. She was actively taking something away. For years, that logic had worked on her. It had worked when Martin asked her to cancel plans because he needed a lift. It had worked when he volunteered her to organize family gatherings and called her difficult if she objected. It had even worked when Noah was younger and Martin arrived late, knowing Claire would keep the child entertained and grateful when he finally appeared. Claire had thought she was choosing which arguments mattered. Standing beside the stadium barrier, she saw that she had also been teaching Martin which promises could be broken safely. Noah tugged at her sleeve. Can we just go? Martin pointed toward him. Listen to him. Claire ignored her father. Do you want to leave? Noah's eyes moved toward the turnstiles. I don't want everyone arguing because of me. No one is arguing because of you. Martin gave a bitter laugh. Claire turned on him. Don't. What? We are standing here because he can't miss one match. Noah's face closed. Claire knew she should take him away from the conversation. Every part of her wanted to move him through security and deal with Martin later. But Martin had placed Noah at the center of the dispute and then blamed him for occupying the space. Leaving without correcting that would not protect Noah. It would leave him carrying Martin's explanation. Claire crouched slightly so she was closer to his eye level without making a performance of it. You were invited, she said. Granddad promised you this seat. You did nothing wrong by arriving to use it. Noah looked past her at Martin. Did you know this morning? Martin folded his arms. This isn't how decisions work when you're an adult. It's a yes or no question, Claire said. I confirmed Graham this morning. Before you picked us up. Martin's silence answered. Noah nodded once. His expression did not collapse. That made it worse. He seemed to file the information away. Martin saw it too. I was going to explain. When? Noah asked. After I knew whether it was happening. You sent the transfer. That doesn't mean it was final. Claire held up the screen. You expected me to make it final. I expected you to understand the opportunity. You expected me to tell Noah there was a technical problem. Martin's eyes shifted. It was a tiny movement, but Claire recognized it. That was the plan, she said. I never said that. You didn't have to. Noah looked at her. Would the ticket still work if you said no? Yes. Martin stepped closer. Claire, she kept her eyes on Noah. It is assigned to you. The request only changes that if I approve it. So I can still go in? Yes. The relief on his face lasted less than a second. Then he looked toward Martin and seemed embarrassed by it. Martin lowered his voice. Think beyond today. Claire stood. I am. No, you're thinking about winning an argument. I don't want this argument. You could end it with one tap. So could you. Withdraw the request. Martin shook his head. If Graham changes his mind, the seat should be ready. He knows it belongs to Noah. He knows there is a family disagreement. That is not the same thing. Claire felt the last of her uncertainty thinning. Martin did not think Graham's refusal settled anything. He believed the correct arrangement still existed underneath the embarrassment. Noah outside, Claire beside him, Martin seated next to the person who might promote him. Everyone else merely needed to calm down and return to their assigned role. Claire checked the time. They had just over an hour before kickoff. The queue was moving quickly now. Another steward approached and asked whether they were entering or stepping aside. Entering, Claire said. Martin answered at the same time. One moment. The steward looked between them. You can't block this lane. Claire moved with Noah toward the next barrier. Martin followed. Do not press anything yet. Noah's ticket appeared beneath the transfer request, still active and ready to scan. Claire could have declined immediately. Her thumb hovered near the button. Then she stopped. She did not want the decision hidden inside the phone, while Martin continued telling himself that a system setting, a misunderstanding, or her temper had ruined his plan. She turned to him. Tell Noah what you want me to do. Martin looked around at the passing supporters. I've already explained. No, you explained it to me. Tell him. This is inappropriate. You asked for his seat. He gets to hear you ask. Noah said. Mum, you don't have to. Martin seized on it. Exactly. He doesn't need this. Claire kept her voice steady. He needs to know whether you believe the promise still counts. Martin's mouth tightened. I believe families sometimes make sacrifices. Which member of the family is sacrificing something? I have worked for that company for 27 years. Noah looked down. Martin continued, speaking to Claire now. I have trained people who passed me. I have covered weekends, holidays, emergencies. Graham makes the recommendation. One afternoon with him could do more than another formal interview where he already thinks he knows me. Claire could understand the fear beneath the words, without accepting what he had done. Martin had spent years believing recognition was about to arrive. Each promotion cycle gave him another person to blame and another reason to wait. The final was not simply entertainment to him anymore. It was private access to the person who controlled the outcome he wanted. But Martin had not offered his own seat to create that access. He had chosen the person least able to refuse. You could have asked Noah before you invited him, Claire said. He would have said no. He might have. He's 12. He doesn't understand what is at stake. Then why are you treating his silence as agreement? Martin looked at Noah. You said you were fine going home. Noah swallowed. I said we could. That is the same thing. No, Claire said. It isn't. Martin rubbed his forehead and looked toward the stadium. The crowd noise rose as something happened inside. Perhaps the teams appearing for warm-ups. Noah turned toward the sound automatically. Claire watched him listen to the match he had not yet been allowed to enter. Martin checked his watch. "We are wasting time." Noah spoke so quietly Claire nearly missed it. "You can have it." Martin looked relieved. Claire did not. Noah went on. "You can take the ticket. I don't want to sit next to you now." Martin stared at him. The words had not sounded defiant. Noah sounded tired. Claire felt the cost of the morning settle into its final shape. Even if they entered, even if their team won, the day Martin had promised was already gone. He could not give Noah the version of the match that existed before the transfer request. Martin recovered first. "You're upset. You don't mean that." Noah shrugged. "I mean I don't care anymore." Claire knew he cared. The program in her hand had a bent corner where he had held it too tightly. Martin looked at her as though she should correct the child. Usually, she would have softened it. She might have said Noah was overwhelmed, that everyone needed a minute, that nobody should take words seriously when emotions were high. Almost did it from habit. Then she remembered Graham calling Noah a nephew because that was what Martin had told him. She remembered the prepared explanation about a family guest who could not attend. She remembered Martin's confidence that Claire would stay outside because of course she would not go in without her son. Every part of the plan relied on her making his decisions easier to survive. She handed the program back to Noah. "You don't have to give away something because an adult put you under pressure," Martin said. "You're teaching him to be selfish." Claire looked at him. "No, you're teaching him that a promise lasts until someone important wants what he has." The steward called to them again, less patiently this time. Martin's voice dropped. "If you reject that request, don't pretend you're only protecting him. You know what this may cost me." Claire unlocked the phone. The transfer screen filled it again. Approve, decline. Martin stood close enough to see where her thumb rested. Noah stood on her other side, no longer looking at the screen. For most of her life, Claire had believed that preventing an argument was a kind of care. Now she could see who had always paid for that peace. Claire pressed decline. The request disappeared. No dramatic message replaced it. The app simply returned to Noah's ticket, his name still beneath the seat number. Block 214, row 18, seat 63, valid for entry. Martin stared at the screen. "You've done it." Claire slipped the phone into her coat pocket. "Yes, you could have waited." "For what?" "For Graham to come back." "He isn't coming back for Noah's seat." "You don't know that." "I know I'm not transferring it." Martin looked toward the plaza, searching the crowd as though Graham might reappear and prove Claire wrong. The steward approached again. "You need to scan or move away from the entrance." Claire opened the 3 tickets. Martin's remained on his own phone, but she had Claire's and Noah's ready. "We're scanning." Martin stepped in front of her. "This doesn't end when you go through that barrier." "No." Claire looked at Noah. "It doesn't." Martin seemed to hear the difference between what they meant. He moved aside. Claire scanned Noah's ticket first. The light above the turnstile turned green. Noah hesitated before pushing through. For weeks, he had talked about this exact moment. He had watched videos showing the stadium entrance and told Claire that walking through the scanner would be when the final became real. Now he looked back at Martin. His grandfather remained on the other side of the barrier. Martin lifted one hand. "Go on, mate. We'll talk inside." Noah turned away and passed through. Claire scanned her own ticket and followed him. They waited beyond security while Martin entered through the next lane. He had purchased the tickets, planned the route, and repeated the kickoff time so often that Claire had expected him to lead them through every part of the day. Now Noah walked beside her. The concourse was louder than the entrance plaza. Supporters crowded around food counters and merchandise stands. Children in scarves posed for photographs beneath signs marking the final. Somewhere above them, the stadium announcer tested the speakers. Noah kept his hands in his hoodie pockets. Claire wanted to say something that would restore the morning. She considered buying him food, Even though they had eaten on the train, she considered offering to find their seats early or walk around the stadium first. Each suggestion sounded like an attempt to fill the space Martin had created. "Do you want to go straight up?" she asked. Noah nodded. Martin caught them near the stairwell. "Slow down." Claire stopped, but Noah continued for 2 more steps before noticing. Martin's expression had changed. The anger was still there, but it was controlled now. He spoke in the careful tone he used when other people were close enough to hear. "I've messaged Graham." Claire said nothing. "He hasn't answered. That is between you and him. You made it between all of us." Noah stared at the concrete stairs. Claire said, "Not here." Martin laughed once. "That was my suggestion 10 minutes ago." "No, your suggestion was that I approve the transfer quietly. I asked you to think about the family." "I did." Martin glanced at Noah. "Then stop speaking as though I wanted to hurt him." Claire had no access to what Martin had wanted. She knew only what he had arranged. "You invited your boss to use his seat. I saw an opportunity. You saw Noah as the person easiest to remove." Martin's face tightened. "That is not fair." "It is exactly what happened." Noah began climbing the stairs. Claire followed him. Martin called after them, "You're enjoying this." Claire stopped. It was the kind of accusation that had once forced her to defend herself for half an hour. She would explain that she hated conflict, that she had not meant to embarrass him, that she wished the morning had gone differently. This time, she answered only what was true. "No." Then she kept walking. Their seats were high enough to see the entire pitch, but close enough for Noah to recognize the players during warm-ups. Martin had chosen well. Noah reached row 18 and checked the numbers twice. Seat 62, seat 63, seat 64. He sat in the middle seat, the one Martin had tried to transfer. Claire took seat 64. She placed the program on Noah's lap. The bent corner remained visible. Martin did not arrive immediately. Noah watched the warm-up without speaking. Claire followed his attention from one end of the pitch to the other, though she knew little about the tactical routines he had described on the journey. After several minutes, he pointed toward a player near the touchline. "He's starting." Claire recognized the name from Noah's bedroom poster. "You thought he was injured?" "He was." Noah leaned forward, watching the player accelerate toward the ball. For a few seconds, he sounded like himself again. Then Martin appeared at the end of the row. The supporters already seated had to stand to let him pass. He apologized to each of them, smiling with the exaggerated politeness of someone aware that strangers were observing. He reached seat 62. Noah did not move his knees aside until Martin asked, "Can I get through?" Noah pulled his feet back. Martin sat beside him. Claire looked at the arrangement and stood. "I'll swap." Martin frowned. "There's no need. There is for me." She moved into Noah's seat and directed him to seat 64. Noah changed places without arguing. Claire sat between them. Martin looked past her. "This is childish." "Watch the match." The teams left the pitch after warm-ups. Music began playing through the stadium speakers, and the crowd rose as the final countdown appeared on the screens. Noah stood with everyone else. Martin tried to speak across Claire. "You still have the scarf I bought you last year?" Noah nodded. "Couldn't find it today? I wanted this one." Martin had helped him choose the green and white scarf 2 weeks earlier. Claire could not tell whether he had forgotten or was trying to begin the day again from an earlier point. The teams emerged. The noise around them became physical, pressing through the seats and concrete. Noah shouted with the crowd. When their team attacked, he grabbed Claire's sleeve. When a shot went wide, he dropped back into his seat and covered his face with both hands. For stretches of the first half, the morning disappeared beneath the match. Claire allowed herself to watch him rather than Martin. This was not the grandfather-grandson experience Noah had imagined, but he was inside. He saw the pitch. He sang the chants. He complained about a decision that looked obvious to him and incomprehensible to Claire. Martin attempted several comments across her. Claire answered some of them herself. Noah answered none. At halftime, Martin stood. "I'm getting drinks." Claire checked the queues filling the concourse. "We're fine." I asked Noah. Noah looked at the pitch. "I don't want anything. You haven't had a drink since the station." "I'm not thirsty." Martin waited. When Noah did not change his answer, he pushed past the row and left. Claire watched him disappear up the steps. "Do you want water?" she asked. "No. You can have something even if you don't want it from him." "I know." Noah unfolded the program and began reading the team list. After a moment he asked, "Do you think his boss will get him in trouble?" Claire considered the answer before giving it. "I don't know." "Will he lose his job?" "I don't think one bad invitation means somebody loses their job. But I don't know what Graham will say." Noah traced a finger down the printed squad. "Grandad said the promotion would help us. He said it could. Would it? Maybe he would earn more." "That's not what I mean." Claire waited. Noah kept his eyes on the page. "Would he help us more?" Claire thought about school pickups, the occasional repair Martin handled, and the money he tried to press into her hand at Christmas. She also thought about the fact that every offer eventually returned in a later argument. "I don't know," she said. "But you didn't have to give up your ticket to find out." Noah nodded. Martin returned carrying 3 bottles of water. He placed one in front of Noah. Noah said, "Thanks," without looking at him. Martin sat. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then he leaned toward Claire. "You've made your point." Claire kept her eyes on the pitch. "This isn't a point." "What is it then?" "A consequence." Martin lowered his voice. "Graham has read my message." Claire did not respond. "He hasn't replied." "That still has nothing to do with Noah. It has everything to do with what you did outside." Claire turned toward him. "What I did was refuse. You exposed me in front of the person who decides whether I move up. You exposed yourself when you invited him." Martin looked away first. The second half began before he spoke again. Their team scored 12 minutes later. Noah jumped up so quickly that his program fell to the floor. He shouted, turned instinctively toward Martin, and stopped. For a fraction of a second, Claire saw the old reflex. Noah had always shared goals with his grandfather first. Then he turned to her. They scored. Claire laughed. "I saw." He hugged her around the shoulders. Martin clapped beside them. Noah returned to his seat without looking left. The lead did not last. The opposing team equalized, and the match went into extra time. By then, Claire's legs ached from standing and sitting. Her phone battery had dropped below 20%. The ordinary discomforts of a long match should have made the morning feel normal. They did not. Their team eventually scored again. The final whistle arrived under a roar that swallowed every smaller sound. Noah stood on his seat long enough to see the players gather near the center circle. Claire held the back of his jacket so he would not lose his balance. Confetti burst above the pitch. Martin leaned around her. "Noah." Noah looked at him. "We won." Noah nodded. "Yeah." Martin held out his hand. Noah looked at it, then shook it briefly. He did not refuse. He did not smile either. They stayed for the trophy presentation. When the team lifted the cup, Noah recorded several seconds on Claire's phone. His hands shook from excitement. For that moment, Claire was glad she had rejected the transfer with no qualifications. Not because Martin had been embarrassed, because Noah would remember that when an adult tried to take the promise away, someone had said no. The crowd began leaving slowly. Martin suggested waiting until the aisles cleared. Claire gathered their things. "We're taking the train." "We came in my car." "You came in your car." "Noah and I came by train." "I was going to drive you home." "You didn't tell us that." "I assumed." Claire zipped the program into Noah's backpack. "We'll go separately." Martin followed them into the concourse. "You are taking this too far." Noah walked several steps ahead, close enough for Claire to see him, but far enough that Martin lowered his voice again. He got into the match. His team won. What exactly is the continuing damage? Claire stopped near a concrete column, away from the main flow. You think the result cancels what happened outside? I think you are determined to punish me. You planned to leave him outside. I planned for you to stay with him. That doesn't make it better. He would have been safe. Claire stared at him. Martin still spoke as though the only question were whether Noah would have been supervised. You promised to take him, and circumstances changed. No, your priorities changed. Do you expect me to apologize for caring about my career? No, I expect you to apologize for deciding Noah's promise was the cheapest thing you could spend on it. Martin's eyes moved toward Noah. He was waiting beside a wall display, pretending to study the route map. You're putting words in my mouth, Martin said. I'm describing what you did. I bought those tickets for all of us, and then tried to use one twice. Martin's phone vibrated. He checked it immediately. Claire watched his face but could not read the message from his expression. Graham? She asked. Martin locked the screen. That's private. Fine. He seemed disappointed that she did not ask again. At the station, the crowd split across several platforms. Martin remained with them even though the car park lay in the opposite direction. Noah checked the departure board. Train is in 9 minutes, Martin said. I'll take you home. No thanks, Noah replied. Martin looked at Claire. She had not prompted the answer. You don't have to make this unpleasant, he said. Noah adjusted the straps of his backpack. I'm not. Martin crouched slightly, trying to meet his eyes. Today got complicated. That happens. But you saw the final. Noah nodded. And we won. Another nod. So we're all right. Claire felt the question's weight. Martin was not asking whether Noah was all right. He was asking whether the consequence could finish at the station. Noah looked at him. Did you know before you picked us up? Martin stood again. We have discussed that. You didn't answer me. Yes, Martin said. I knew Graham might come. And you still bought me the program. Martin frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Noah looked toward the platform. I don't know. The train announcement sounded overhead. Claire placed a hand lightly between Noah's shoulder blades. We need to go. Martin caught her arm. Not hard, but enough to stop her. What happens now? Claire looked at his hand until he released her. We go home. You know what I mean. She did. For years this had been the point at which she repaired everything for him. She would accept a partial apology, translate it into something warmer, and call him a few days later so nobody had to acknowledge the distance. I'm not discussing it here, she said. When then? When Noah isn't standing beside us. Martin looked at his grandson. I never meant for him to hear any of this, Claire said. That was another part of the plan you expected me to handle. She and Noah boarded the train. Martin remained on the platform as the doors closed. Noah took the window seat. For the first part of the journey, he watched videos from the trophy presentation. He replayed the winning goal twice and sent it to a school friend. Then he put the phone down. Are you angry with me? He asked. Claire turned toward him. For what? For not wanting to give him the ticket? No, I nearly did. That wouldn't have made me angry either. He looked out at the houses passing beyond the window. I thought if I said we could go, he'd stop. Claire understood more clearly than she wanted to. You were trying to end the argument. Yeah, I do that too. Noah looked at her. Does it work? Sometimes it ends the argument. That's not what I asked. Claire smiled despite herself. No, not always. The train moved into a tunnel, and their reflections appeared in the darkened window. Claire had protected his seat, but she had not protected him from learning something painful about Martin. There was no version of the ending in which the day remained untouched. That was the cost Martin had not understood. 3 days passed before he called. Claire let the first call go to voicemail. His message said they needed to clear the air before the incident became something permanent. He did not apologize. He explained again that the promotion would have improved his schedule. He said Graham had behaved coldly at work on Monday, but had not mentioned the match. He said Claire had undermined him in front of a senior colleague and taught Noah that adults could be publicly disrespected. Claire listened to the message once. Then she deleted it. Martin called again that evening. This time she answered. "I can't collect Noah on Thursday if you're going to keep ignoring me," he said. Claire had not ignored the pickup. She had spent her lunch break rearranging it. "I've made another arrangement." A pause followed. "What arrangement?" "After-school club. You're paying for that." "Yes. That is ridiculous when I'm available." Claire looked at the weekly charge written beside her calendar. It was money she would rather not spend. "You're not collecting him for now. So this is punishment. It is a change, based on one mistake." Claire leaned against the kitchen counter. "You still haven't called it a mistake. I've said the situation got out of hand." "You arranged the situation." Martin exhaled. "What do you want me to say?" Claire could have written the apology for him. She knew the exact words. "I promised Noah the ticket. I decided my promotion mattered more. I lied to Graham because I knew the truth would make the invitation unacceptable. I expected you to carry the blame." She refused to supply it. "Say what you believe," she replied. "That is what I'm trying to do. Then we don't have anything else to discuss tonight." The after-school arrangement complicated Claire's week. On Thursdays, she had to finish specific office tasks earlier, so she could collect Noah before the late fee applied. Twice, another parent helped when a meeting ran over. Claire bought them coffee and promised to return the favor. The inconvenience made the boundary real. There were evenings when she stared at the additional childcare cost and resented Martin for creating it. Once, she nearly called him and restored the pickup simply because the practical problem seemed larger than the principle. Then she remembered Noah, asking whether Granddad had known before buying the program. She found another solution. Martin continued working. Claire knew because he still wore his company jacket when he stopped by her mother's house, and relatives mentioned his shifts in ordinary conversation. Nobody told Claire that he had been fired, demoted, or formally disciplined. She did not ask. Several weeks after the final, Martin sent Noah a package. Inside was a new football shirt. Noah thanked him by text. Martin replied with an invitation to another match. Noah showed Claire the message. "What should I say?" "What do you want to say?" "I don't want to go." "Then say that." Noah typed, "Thanks, but I'm busy that day." Claire noticed he did not explain what he was doing. Before the final, Noah had sent Martin every school fixture as soon as the schedule appeared. Martin would respond with a thumbs up or say he would try to attend. Sometimes he arrived, sometimes he forgot. Noah always invited him again. The autumn term began. Noah's school team had its first home match on a Wednesday afternoon. He sent the time to Claire. He did not send it to Martin. Claire did not point this out. She stood beside the touchline after work, while Noah played on the right side of midfield. The wind was stronger than it had been at the cup final, and there were fewer than 30 spectators. Noah scored late in the second half. He looked toward Claire first. She raised both arms. The following weekend, Martin called. "I heard Noah scored." Claire knew her aunt must have mentioned it. "He did. Why didn't anyone tell me about the match?" "The school published the fixture list." "That isn't the same as being invited." "No." Martin waited. Claire could hear traffic behind him. "Did you tell him not to send it to me?" "No." "Then why didn't he?" "You need to ask Noah. He's a child. He's old enough to decide who gets his match dates." Martin came to the house the following Sunday. Claire let him in because Noah agreed to speak with him. Martin brought no gift. Claire considered that a small improvement. They sat at the kitchen table. Claire remained nearby but did not lead the conversation. Martin asked about school first. Noah answered politely. Then Martin said, "Your mum told me you're not sending me the football schedule." Noah looked at Claire. She said nothing. "You can find it online," he told Martin. "I know. I meant that you used to invite me." Noah picked at the edge of a paper coaster. "You can go if you know the time." "That still isn't an invitation." "No." Martin leaned back. "Are you still angry about the final?" Noah thought for several seconds. "I don't know. You got to see it." "I know. And I didn't give your seat away. Mum stopped you." Martin looked toward Claire. She did not rescue him. He turned back to Noah. "I made a poor decision." It was closer to an apology than anything he had said so far. Noah waited. Martin continued. "I thought the job opportunity was more important than one match. It was important to me. I know that now." Noah's voice remained calm. "You knew before." Martin opened his mouth, then closed it. Claire saw how easily the conversation could turn. Martin could defend the price, the promotion, the years he had worked, or the fact that Noah eventually attended. Instead, he looked down at his hands. "I knew you wanted to go," he said. "I didn't understand what taking the seat would mean." Noah looked unconvinced. Claire was not sure she believed him either, but Martin had finally stopped arguing about whether the seat belonged to him. "I'm sorry," he said. Noah nodded once. It was not forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. Martin asked, "When is the next match?" Noah looked at Claire. "Mum knows." Martin's expression shifted, but he did not challenge the answer. He stayed for another 20 minutes and left without asking to restore the Thursday pickups. Over the following months, he attended 2 school matches after finding the dates himself. He stood apart from Claire at the first one. At the second, Noah spoke to him briefly afterward. There was no single moment when the relationship healed, because it had not healed yet. Martin still wanted the old closeness, without accepting how slowly trust returned. Noah remained polite, but stopped offering promises on Martin's behalf. Claire no longer translated one person's disappointment into another person's duty. The seat at the final had never been Martin's to give away. He had paid for it. He had chosen it. He had transferred it into Noah's name. But the moment he made it part of a promise, ownership was no longer the only thing that mattered. Claire had lost convenience, family ease, and the comforting belief that her father's reliability had improved with age. Noah had lost something larger than a football ticket. He had lost the habit of expecting his grandfather to turn up simply because he had said he would. And Martin's consequence was not a ruined career or a public punishment. It was standing beside an ordinary school pitch, learning that invitations once given freely could no longer be assumed. When someone pays for a promise, do you think that gives them the right to take it back when a better opportunity appears?